Well, hello again, race fans, and welcome to Season 4, 2021, the iRacing IndyCar Series FIXED. It's race number 4 of 12. We're doing 75 laps here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the legacy version in Charlotte, North Carolina. So great to have you here on VirtualRacing.Network, and we're so happy to be bringing you live, uninterrupted coverage of today's race. My name, of course, is Trevor Greenfield. I'm your host announcer. You can catch me at Virtual Racing N on Twitter, and I'll be joined, as always, alongside by Gary Godso, IndyCar iRacing announcer that you're hearing his voice everywhere, including Monday night strength of field race. You can catch him on Twitter at Gary Godso. Gary, it's awesome to have you alongside, and I'm looking forward to today's action.
Yeah, I have a special place in my heart for IndyCars at Charlotte. But, hey, let's look at Charlotte by the numbers when it concerns IndyCar. 4 times it has appeared on the IndyCar schedule, but only 3 races have been run. And in those 3 races, there's only 2 winners. We'll talk about that later in the program, but this can only happen at one track in IndyCar history, and that's Charlotte.
It's quite an amazing history, as we're seeing some history done here. It's been a long time since the IndyCars have been out there on the track, but Pablo Diaz-France is already familiar with the track, winning Monday night's race, leading the points here in the Fixed Series, and right now sitting on pole position, although Thomas Christensen, with a fantastic second lap there, will tie. I'll have to look at that, but he tied the same time as Pablo Diaz-France is out to the 1,000th. So
yeah, it's down the speed. Francis is actually a 217.401 mile per hour, and Christensen is a 217.360. And incidentally, the track record is 220 set by Tony Stewart.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other drivers. That's some cool company that these drivers are going to be in for sure. But Christensen with a fantastic second lap there, and Jesper Orman taking third at the moment. Andreas Eich into fourth, and we watch Nick de Groot. Some of you may recognize his name from around the IndyCar world and from the motorsports world as the motorsport.com news editor. And would you believe it, in the race just before this one, he took the win. So possibly a dark horse for today's race. He's got 6,900 I rating, I think making him possibly the top I-rated driver in the field, even higher than Adriano Pinero, who is also just starting his qualifying lap. So Pinero, of course, did win the first race here, the very first week that we were covering on Championship Thursday. And by the way, we have some other good news regarding the championship coming down on Thursday, Championship Thursday, right here at VirtualRacing.Network. 4,100 is the strength of field for today's race. So thus, Monday night's 3,700. This is actually technically higher, and so it's going to mean the most to win this race, hopefully, for the championship points picture by the end of the week. Would you believe Jorge Varela, name we didn't call last week, for Mass Devils Racing?
That was my reaction right there. I just saw him top the charts. Oh, Pinero, he tops him. So we got a 217.430 for Valera, and then Pinero comes in with under 40 seconds left in qualifying, provisionally to set the pole speed of 217.444. Franzoni now coming in with the 217.506 miles per hour. So I don't know if the track's cooling off or these guys are just deciding to wait to the bitter end to kind of surprise us what their speeds are. But 217.5 is your provisional pole right now with about 15 seconds left.
Well, it's 102 degrees on the track, and already the heat under the collar starting to come up as the speed starts reaching new levels here. And we're seeing some drivers coming forward now. Brazilian 1-2, Franzoni. He looked great on Monday night. He's been looking great on our broadcasts here, VirtualRacing.Network, on Thursdays. And right now cements his name atop the board. Nobody was able to get him. That's Franzoni with half of the I rating of Adriano Pinero getting pole position. Pretty exciting stuff, Gary.
those Brazilians. They're always fast, no matter what division they're in, what car they're driving. They have a great history of not just road course racing, but a very deep history of great Brazilian oval track racers, from Emerson Fittipaldi to Helio Castro Neves. I mean, those are just to name a couple that have Indy 500 wins. So there's a great history of auto racing in the Brazilian blood. And they love it because they go hard every single lap. It's a passionate run for them.
Absolutely passionate run. There's a lot of pride tied up in being the fastest out here amongst all of these competitors as well. And this is top split. This is the top race of the week. You want to show well here. We've got a numerous races within races. You've got the best Brazilian, the best Swedish, best Spanish driver of the field. Who will be the top American to finish? Well, right now, that top American sitting back in 10th, but we'll start with pole position. Rodrigo Franzoni takes the pole with a fantastic quick lap, faster than Adriano Pinheiro, and that says something. Will it be Franzoni's day? We'll find out. Jorge Varela, previous winner as well as Pinheiro, will start third on the second row. Pablo Diaz-Frances, your points leader coming into the race, is going to be starting in fourth spot. On the outside of Varela, fifth. Thomas Christensen, your top Swedish qualified driver, going to be next to Alvaro Gonzalez. Jesper Orman on the fourth row with Nacho LDR on the outside. Andreas Eich for Team Talent, they're in ninth position. And Nick de Groot will be starting in 10th. New driver going to be joining us today for the first time, Tim Tomes. They're in 11th spot. And Aaron McQuarrie going to be starting in 12th. There you see the rest. Jim Wallen next to Gabriel Amer. Tommy G, Thomas Geisler making an appearance in the field. Going to be starting on that row next to Perjarm Mikkelsen, and I saw him racing earlier. Bertrand Cordier and Hugo Olsen going to be starting towards the back of the pack. He's going to need to really work his way forward, that Powerslide Motorsports driver. And Alexander Harry, Kazuhiro Shiba, and Mauro Allende are going to be completing the field today. So lots of fun as we get set to go here. It is Pablo Diaz-Frances in the lead of the points. We'll show you that in a minute. I think he'd need 180 points today, Hugo Olsen would, to be able to take over that points lead. We'll see whether he can manage to come through the field and do that. It's anyone's race today, Gary, and I'm excited. Charlotte Motor Speedway's got IndyCars back, and we're ready to go green. So Pinheiro still staying on the outside, but it's Franzoni who leads into turn one.
Outside line is not the fast line around here. It's right down there on that white line. Make sure you don't clip that apron or you're going to cause a big wreck. But there's only about 10 real good laps left in these tires, so they got to make their passes now. Other than that,
Adriano Franzoni gets turned. In turn two, he's up in the wall. That may bring out the caution. Franzoni damaged, having to bring that car across the infield and into his pit box, slams against the inside pit wall. Ouch. And unfortunately, not only did that not bring out the caution, but he'll get an illegal pit entry, adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
We're going to take a look in just a second at that crash, see if we can tell exactly what happened. Let's take a look from the green flag. We're just going to step back a moment and take a look at the green flag. We'll look at it from onboard Franzoni.
That's really allowed Pinheiro to get a big lead there, because a lot of guys were checking up behind him, and he's busted out to about a half second, almost 0.6 of a second lead. But there's only about 10 laps that these guys have on these tires that are really racy, and then after that, it's going to be starting to be single file. Really the only time we get a chance to pass someone when you go past the 10 lap mark on these tires is if they make a mistake in front of you. And these guys, they don't make very many mistakes.
Well, I think we saw the culprit there on your screen. It looked like one of the Necky Racing Team drivers. I'm just going to assume that was Pablo Diaz-Francis, who was pretty much holding position. We'll have to take a look at that maybe during the yellow flag a little closer, but I think Francis was holding position and perhaps looked like Franzoni maybe came down. But as you mentioned there, Gary, Pinheiro able to open up that 3/4 of a second lead over Francis. And now Varela there in third, right where he qualified, just behind. So these drivers battling it out hard now for second. As you mentioned also, the tires starting to go away after 10 laps. So you got to really make your move forward. Pleasure to have Jessica Sabin joining us, PMRL admin, as she gets to see Jorge Varela dive down the inside of Pablo Diaz-Francis and try him on, but unable to take it through turn 2, heading down the backstretch. Thanks for stopping by. We had a great race yesterday here on VirtualRacing.Network. Just covering the race alongside Julian Altena. Great first race of the season for the PMRL. So make sure to tune in next Wednesday for that race series. You get to see the second race. In the meantime, also Oscar Fredrickson stopping by, asking if it's Gary Godso. You bet. That is Gary Godso, voice of IndyCar on iRacing at the moment. So glad to have him be part of our team here today, VirtualRacing.Network. And also Guillermo Pecorul stopping by. Vamos, Mass Devils. And he's got something to cheer about today, because we got a couple of Mass Devils drivers in there. We got Jorge Varela there in third and Nacho LDR in fifth.
And Valera also has the purple lap at the moment with the 24-3. Your big movers in the race so far, Olsen up 4, and Mikkelsen up 4 as well. But they are still marred outside of the top 10, trying to work their way through the mess. Meanwhile, up front, it's like it's Pinheiro by himself, then a pack of 2, then they're by themselves for a bit, and then there's like a pack of 3 with Gonzalez, LDR, and DeGroot.
Well, let's put the track map up there on the screen so you can kind of tell where your favorite drivers are at the moment. Everybody's still on the same front half of the lap, with the exception of Franzoni, who obviously had that crash in the very beginning lap. But as we look at Francis just behind and Varela there still battling for second place, it looks like Francis able to stabilize a little bit. We take a look at the gap just behind Alvaro Gonzalez and Nacho LDR just behind that. These two Mass Devils racing drivers doing quite well at the moment, making it third, fourth, and fifth, I believe, at the moment. And then Nick DeGroot just won that race previously. He's got a big run. Let's jump on board the Americans' #1 yellow-colored motorsport.com machine.
We are right there at that point where the goodness of the tires have run off. So we are in the, I guess, the dog days of the stint between now and the pit stop. So the pit window should open. The pit window should open anytime after, right around lap 24 or so, very similar to what happened at Kentucky. But they could stop early if they want. We remember last time we saw some people stop early. The under, I think, is going to be very powerful, because there's about 2 seconds a lap difference between new tires and old tires late in the stint, and you'll want to take advantage of that. If you think you can jump the person in front of you, hit early, get the short fill, get the new tires, and then run like hell on your out laps, and maybe you make that jump.
So there is a strategy that you're telling me. You're telling me there's a way, and that's all that really matters to me. If I'm a driver, you're saying there's a chance. You're saying there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're telling me there's a chance I can run off the front, I'm going to do anything I can to run off the front and ditch these other drivers behind me. I don't want Pablo Diaz-Francis blowing hot air down my neck. I don't want Jorge Varela, who's already won a race, as well as Pablo Francis has also won a race. I don't want either one of these drivers breathing down my neck if I'm Adriano Pinheiro. But, you do what you can, and you try to use up your tires when you can. For some of these drivers, coming up through the field, So we take a look, as you mentioned, Hugo Olsen having to make his way forward. He was leading the points as we left the broadcast last week, trying to work on the outside, and now
with Ike,
of Ike, and he's got to use up those tires and maybe use a little extra weight jacker, just trying to come forward. So, you know, it's all about when do you use them, beginning of the stint, end of the stint, and these drivers going to be adjusting those setups, those cars from on board as much as they can. He goes down the inside, side by side, these two.
He's not going to have the tires when they get worn at that point. The inside is not the fastest line. The outside is going to have momentum. As you see right there, it held him off. So you see right now, Olsen is doing the high side all the way around. So he's trying to stay, treat his tires a little bit more gingerly than some of the guys that are running right down on the white line. But you can't do that all the way around the track, because in turns 3 and 4, especially the exit off 4, it funnels down. So you're going to have to come down into the racing groove. So you'll probably put a little bit more wear on your tires on the 3 and 4 side of the racetrack versus the 1 and 2 side of the racetrack. And he got a good sniff at it, but he didn't get a chance to pull alongside, and that momentum, or he did get a chance to pull alongside, but the momentum on the high side just kept pulling Ike around to hold the position. I don't think we're going to see much passing between now and the pit stop. So if he pulls it off, he's going to be really working for it.
Well, these two we see, I mean, we were just seeing them on Prime Meridian Racing League yesterday, racing together, and it's... What's that?
Jasper's in the pits for some reason.
I think he's having connection issues. He seems to be dropping in and out. We'll have to watch out for that. See, now he's back on the track, shown in 8th place.
Okay.
So he may be having some connection issues. Of course, these drivers, it looks real, but I hate to shatter the wall, the fourth wall for you, but all these drivers are actually sitting at home in their own sim racing cockpits. They're not actually on the track together. And, you know, Sweden's starting to go into fall and starting to get some cold weather. I was just talking to Julian yesterday from the Netherlands. He was telling me it's getting chilly down to about, you know, like 10 degrees Celsius. And so all these drivers, you know, maybe getting some ice and some rain and stuff like that, causing some problems with these internet connections. But fortunately, all in all on iRacing, it's really great. We don't have that much problem with internet connections for the fact that these people are competing from all around the world together. Just sometimes a little net code, you know, couple of feet hopefully is the worst that it gets, but still something cool that we're able to get here on iRacing, where all these drivers are able to compete as though they were right there on the same track together.
It's like Olsen's made it around Ike, and now he is currently in contact with Wallen, and that's turning into quite the battle right now.
Well, of course, I hear the name Wallen. I think of Vilda Wallen, Three Crowns racing driver. Haven't seen her as much in the racing. And there, we're watching Gonzalez try to make it into the pits. Had to dodge a couple of competitors. Don't know whether he got it down in time. But that Mass Devils racing driver, I love the livery with the Indy 500 logo on the side. And anyway, he pulls into the pits. He'll take early tires, see if he can get some of that 2 second a lap magic that you were talking about, Gary. These newies are worth something else. And have you ever done this before in your IndyCar racing? Substantially undercut the competition as soon as you start to notice that their times are starting to get higher and higher.
Looks like he's got a penalty, so it's kind of moot now.
The undercut doesn't work so well if you speed on pit road.
Speeding right there, yeah. But he was right there as the window opened. Was probably going to try to take advantage of it. Here comes, well, I don't know if Jasper is blinking again. I thought he was coming into the pits. But Pinero's built up a 3.5 second lead. That's pretty massive right now. And as we see, for the most part, all the way around this track, it's single file. And there's a very fine line about what you can use your weight jacker around here, because if you use it one click too much, you'll get that snap loose on exit, especially off of 4. And what it does is it shoots you down into the right into the pits and right across the quad oval grass area. And we haven't seen that yet. We might see it later in the run, but that's quite common in most of the Charlotte races. Right there at the wall, it kind of sends the car around, gets it kind of snap loose, and kind of ruins your day rather quickly if you don't catch it.
you got to stay on top of these cars. You've got the weight jacker, but you also got the anti-roll bar, and again, something we don't talk about enough, but this is the Fixed series. You're handed a setup. It's akin to Arrive and Drive, only you do get to make the same adjustments that the Open series gets to make as far as the anti-roll bar, the brake bias, and that's the anti-roll bar front and back. Goes from 1 softest to 6 stiffest. So you can imagine on your own car, if you put a heavy metal bar across the very center of the hood, going across the car, and you could make that stiffer or softer, and you could do that at the front or the back. You just imagine how that would change the car over the length of the run. So these drivers have to adapt with that, as well as the weight jacker, which cranks up the right rear's ride height a little bit, points that car more down into the corner at the expense of possibly wearing some of the tires a little bit more. And on a track like this with heavy tire degradation, you're really going to be thinking about that, especially as we're over 100 degrees on the track. This is not some cool race at 60 degrees at night. This is over 100 Fahrenheit, which fortunately I don't have my Celsius converter out, but by now you should know about 100 is probably about 30 degrees or so Fahrenheit or Celsius. And basically, as soon as you start getting over about 90 degrees, tire degradation becomes a major factor on these ovals. So these are the masters of basically being able to arrive and drive whatever they hand you. You got to make the most of it. And so in many ways, these are the most talented IndyCar drivers in those capacities on the iRacing service.
That track temp's gone up just 2 degrees here in like the last 10 laps alone. It's up to 104. So it's just making this last stint, the second half of this first stint, just murder for these guys. Just to tell you the difference in laps now, let's take a look at our leader. His fastest lap was a 24.344. His last lap was a 24.989. So he is more than a half second off. And as he gets later into the run, but one of the things that he's not facing is really the traffic at this point. We can look back in the pack a little bit more with like Valera, excuse me. He's at a 24.3 purple lap. He just turned a 25.0. So he is 7/10 off where he was at the beginning of the race. So it's starting to add up really quick for the guys farther back in the pack. And one other thing, Olsen has now moved to 7. He's up 11 spots. He's about the only one that we've seen that's been able to make any headway as soon as the tires went away.
Well, another driver that I'm also watching, brand new, made sure to get us his info properly, submit the driver information form, and get us his livery. Tim Tomes, new driver on the scene, raising in the ranks very, very quickly. But today, he was up in the top 10, but now starting to slide back. So again, possibly, I don't want to say inexperienced because he does a lot of IndyCar racing, but possibly as the tire degradation in this long green flag stint continues on, these drivers have not pitted. This is 36. You said the tires are going to start going away at 10 laps. Wow.
Contact right behind Tomes.
I saw that just out of the corner of my eye. Bertrand Corger catching the raw end of that one. See if we can have to back it up from this point. Not really sure what started that one.
Bertrand Cordier got loose off of 4, just what I was saying, and he had to check up, and that collected Shiva. Looks like Shiva snaps back into place a la Transformer-like, but it originally showed some damage to the right front of Shiva's car, but he's back underway. Looks like Nacho LDR is coming down pit road.
And you called it. He's had enough of these tires. Well, you're saying the tires going away at lap 10, and here we are, lap 38 completed, working on lap 39. So these drivers by now have definitely had enough. And it's just a question of when the front drivers are going to come in, because as we found out, and we continue to find out, the rule of iRacing with these IndyCars, and especially in the Fixed Series, is don't pit if you don't have to. You also have limited tires, which is something to think about, limited tire sets. You can only take 2 sets of tires, but we've gone so long on this opening stint, I don't think that's going to play a role today at all.
No, not unless there's a late caution and there's not a lot of people on the lead lap, and say, there's like maybe 5 cars on the lead lap, maybe 4th and 5th dip in, go for those last set of tires, because what you start with, you get 3 sets, right? Let's to clarify. You get 3 sets of tires. That's 1 on the car at the start of the race and 2 sets in the pits. So if they only need 1 pit stop to make it to the end. So that will take off your starting set to give you a new set, and you'll still have a spare in the pits. So if there's a situation late in the race where there's not very many cars in the lead lap, let's say you're back in 6th, 7th, or 8th or something like that, towards one of the last cars in the lead lap, you got nothing to lose. Just go in there and get those new tires, and maybe you can make up a couple positions towards the end.
Always looking for ways to get that extra position, that is for certain. So we watch as Nick de Groot now has moved up into 6th, up 6 spots already. But I'll tell you what, it's no surprise. Look, in 5th position, 13 spots claimed thus far. Hugo Olsen, Powersled Motorsports, already up into top 5 position from way back in the pack. Not a great qualifying today, but he's still working on the same set of tires, and the last lap at 25.02. What are we seeing from the new tires? 24.48 from Nacho.
Nacho at 24.5. He just did a 24.8 that time by. So as I said, the first 10 laps on your new set of tires, you're not going to get any faster than that.
Well, also Pablo Diaz-Francis, exactly, and Thomas Christensen. Wow, these drivers really having to struggle to get down to that pit lane speed. It's always so slow, but Francis gets in just ahead there, and we'll see whether they can take advantage of the undercut on Adriano Pinero, Jorge Varela, and Nick de Groot, as well as Hugo Olsen, Jim Wallen. All these drivers still out there battling around.
Now this is right in front of your leader. That is the last car in the lead lap. That's Ammer.
Okay.
And he's in P9. Both these guys are 45 laps on their tires. But check out this next car. Here's Tomes. Tomes is pitted, and you're going to see it's a perfect example of what's going on right here with the fresh tires. Watch this. Well, he pulls out right in front of him, but he could have probably passed those 2 if he got right behind him. There, very easily passes Ammer. He's going to duck down low, and he's going to very easily pass Pinero here going into turn 1. And that is all with fresh rubber.
Oh my, I always get nervous when I see a lap car passing a leader, but it's all part of it. I'm sure Pinero understands that.
Amber had to check up big time, and Shiba also had to check up right behind him. Almost caused the wreck there, but Amber is now on lap 46. Shiba pitted on lap 42, so he is working with fresh tires, so he probably had a belt head of steam right there, and really probably cost him a little time on the racetrack. But Pinero's still going at it, lap 48 now of his stint. We're probably looking any time to hit the pit road.
Well, don't look now, but Tommy G for Team Race First with Sunset Arctic there in 8th, looking to make his way forward towards the end of this one, but he is pitting, and Pinero just makes it onto pit road. That's one of the better pit road entrances.
Yeah,
only one little puff of brake smoke.
Yeah, and he also had a bit of a lead to his lead there. Of course, he had some time built up, so he could probably get a little bit more conservative hit in instead of the dive bomb that some of the other drivers were doing that would probably eventually give him a black flag because he got caught speeding. But he's up on the jacks now, getting full of fuel, at least fuel to the end. New set of tires, he's down in the way. We'll see how he comes out here in the middle of all this traffic, because we still have Valera, Olsen, Wallen, and Henry still have not pitted yet. They're on lap 4. They're now 50 laps.
I cannot believe that these drivers are continuing. Jorge Varela still out there on those same tires. This is really a gamble.
25.2 that he just turned, and you're going to have people in the 24 4s, 5s, and 6s tires. So they're just eating him up on the racetrack right now. You're going to see a real good example right here. If we're watching Valera, Geisler just pitted. Watch this, right around the top side of him. But he's going to pit there. Okay, he's pitting. And he hit the line very conservatively, too. That puts Olsen now at the lead still, and he is not pitted. He's 52 laps into his run.
Well, we watch him bring it into the pits. And that will turn over the lead, as you mentioned, to Olsen.
Man standing.
Last man standing. How does he do it, ladies and gentlemen? On his feet for over an hour at a time. Hugo Olsen, unbelievable. Able to stretch now, coming up. This is lap 54 on that same set of tires, turning last time a 25.08. That is something special.
That's actually pretty good compared to his fastest lap of the race at 24.645. That he's only 0.4 slower this late into the run. He's got much better tire management skills than just about anybody else in this split right now.
This is insane. We may see one of those races that we always talk about. It's the one that I try to encourage my teammate Dan Inch to keep doing, one of these super conserved strategies, because if a yellow were to come out, Gary, this would put Olsen and Pinheiro basically in their own race towards the end of this one. And here Olsen pulls in.
Nice entrance.
A 20-second gap. And you talked about Pinheiro building up that gap so he has a little cushion and he can take it a little easier coming into and out of the pits. That's, I mean, it's not like Hugo is going to take it easy, but it is nice having, oh, and he goes a little bit long. That might cost him a little bit of time. But, you know, again, you build up that little bit of a pad of a lead and you can make a small mistake like that and have it not cost you nearly as much. As Pinheiro now back in the lead, so Olsen is going to have to suffer the consequences of doing that very, very long overcut. And unfortunately, he's going to slip back. He's now coming out in 7th place, now back to 8th as Tim Tomez gets by. So Tim Tomes there now back up into 7th for the Scours team.
Take a look back at our leader. He has got a bit of a dilemma right in front of him. He has Ike and Geisler side by side for the better part of 2 laps, so he had really no place to go and was experiencing wherever he turned dirty air. Now they finally got in line, so he's been probably able to make up some time with those guys, but that cost him a little bit, I bet.
All of that playing a role. When do you make your move to go into the pits? You don't necessarily have somebody watching gaps or able to anticipate, so when you come out, are you going to be in lap traffic? Do you try to make your moves quickly? Do you wait a couple of laps and try to see if you can shake it loose? If you're the leader, you can't wait too long because that'll let everybody else catch up. So a difficult position, as you mentioned, for somebody like Adriano Pinheiro from Brazil, racing for Corinthians Bread King, trying to once again recapture that magic he had in the very first week.
New purple lap, Hugo Olsen, 24 flat.
24 flat, so exactly 1 second a lap faster than before he came into the pits. And might we see Hugo making his way back forward? He's already gotten by Tim Tomes.
That's kind of reminiscent of his run at Nashville.
Oh, I was just thinking that. For those of you that haven't checked out that race, that was a heart stopper. Olsen coming from many, many seconds down to pull it back to just about a second back off of the leader on the very final lap. So
yeah, and the same cast of characters as well. So same story, just different day.
For Hugo Olsen being at the front, it is just same story, different day. This is how he does it. He does it with strategy. He does it with pace. He can do it on ovals. He can do it on road courses. Not a surprise to see Hugo making moves. But I'll tell you what, at the moment, top Swedish driver in the field in 6th place. It's Thomas Christensen, a driver we haven't been calling his name too much, racing for 3 Crowns Racing with IAR.
Got a great battle. Sorry to cut you off. A great battle for P4 and 5 between De Groot and Nacho LDR side by side in turns 3 and 4 right now.
And we're watching that indeed. De Groot down the inside. LDR trying to, he had, I believe, 3rd place finish on Monday night. We haven't seen Nacho for a couple of weeks on the Thursday series, but great to have him back. And right now, De Groot up 6 positions, up into 4th. So looking good here on Championship Thursday. Meanwhile, LDR now under attack from Christensen. Sorry to cut you off.
That's okay. Yeah, he's under direct contact right there. So I'm wondering what's going on with Nacho. Has he just lost the handle, or did maybe he scrubbed the wall? We didn't see it, and he's down on speed. Just going to be any number of things. But right now, he is getting. He's going to get freight trained because here comes Olsen.
Indeed, there goes Olsen.
Wow. This is very reminiscent of '97, where it was Buddy Lazier, Billy Boat, and Scott Goodyear fighting it out for that first win.
Of course, part of that magical time for all those drivers, especially Buddy Lazier. And on that day, that was the day Buddy took the first victory, right?
And that was his second ever IndyCar win. Oh, look, LDR got loose off of 4. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. But yeah, that was Buddy Lazier's second win after his first win in the Indy 500 in '96.
Good times in the old days here at Charlotte. Kind of a shame that it turned into such a tragic tale, but nevertheless, this race, not a tragedy whatsoever. A lot of excitement. Thanks for stopping by, Jesus Hurtado. Magic. Go, 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 Mass Devils. So we're getting some great support for the Mass Devils racing team. As we see LDR now continuing to move forward.
Yeah, and I think Gonzalez got really close, or either got close to the wall or hit the wall coming off of 4. So the Mass Devil guys, they've kind of lost the handles of their cars a little bit, and they're trying to regain it right now. Sometimes that can take a lap or two, not to mention might take a lap or two just to bring your heart rate down.
You gotta get all that under control as we're under 8 laps to go. Can you believe this race has just been flying by, Gary? Adriano Pinero leads Jorge Varela and Pablo Diaz-Francis in what has been a caution-free race thus far. Pretty surprising to say in the fixed series, but yet this top split action has the cream of the crop. We are seeing some fantastic action. About, one of the major names I'd love to be able to see if we could get in this race would be Christopher Demerit, because it seems like he's just left out of this big race. Also Andrew Marquez and a couple of others, but it's great, this amazing level of talent that's shown up. Jorge Varela, previous winner. Pablo Diaz-Francis, it's a winner's row on the podium at the moment. Will Hugo Olsen be able to shatter this dream for Pinero, Varela, and Francis? It's a good question. He's out there doing 24:34s, and he's faster than the 3 in front of him.
Yeah, I do think IndyCar will actually make a return to Charlotte someday, but it's probably not going to be on the oval. They'll probably end up using the Roval. Actually, IndyCar did an exhibition. Joseph Newgarden with Team Penske did an exhibition during the first Roval weekend that NASCAR had there. And the IndyCar actually did reasonably well, he said. Maybe a few changes here and there for safety, but other than that, we might actually see the IndyCars return here, but not on the oval.
Well, the fixed series is coming back to the Roval, which I'm looking forward to. That should be insanity defined, but we'll get to that much later. At the same time, as you mentioned, Alvaro Gonzalez having difficulty now on pit road, and we didn't see him drop out. Unfortunately, there's no notes about it, so perhaps issues affecting Jesper Orman, taking him out of the race, as we have just three laps to go. This one flying by. It's Pinero in the lead. There's just not enough time for Hugo Olsen to make this strategy play out today. Varela sitting back 5 seconds adrift of Pinero and Pinero, and Pablo Francis here in third place, 1.8 seconds back and 1.7 ahead of Hugo Olsen. So possibly Olsen might be able to get up to Francis. Whether he can pass or not is anyone's question. Next closest race is going to be this one for fifth spot. Christensen has got about 6/10 of a second to get up to Nick de Groot, but he doesn't seem to be closing that gap quick enough. And we're on the final lap. It's Adriano Pinero. He's only got to survive another half a lap as he comes through 3 and 4. We watch Adriano Pinero take his second victory as he wins here at Charlotte Motor Speedway on Championship Thursday. Second place going to Jorge Varela, third to Pablo Diaz-Francis. Powerslide Motorsports driver Hugo Olsen taking fourth, and Nick DeGroot, who won the last race for the Fixed Series, coming back in this race, not able to get that win, but just outside, top 5 for him. Top Swedish driver went to Hugo Olsen, but Thomas Christensen had a great run today, finishing in 5th. We also appreciate that VirtualRacing.Network logo on the back. Thank you so much to Three Crowns Racing. But Mass Devils Racing getting 2 drivers in the top 7. Necky Racing's Pablo Diaz-Francis getting up into 3rd. Corinthians Bread King up there. We've got all of the major teams, including Scour's team driver Tim Tomes coming in a top 10 position in his first race here on the broadcast. Just outside the top 10, Tommy G for Raceverse. He's going to be looking at how he can get a little bit higher up next time, I'm sure. But the moment and the day belonged to this man, Adriano Pinero of Brazil. You've seen him in the Indy Open Series. You've seen him here in the Fixed Series. He pretty much does what he wants behind that wheel of the IndyCar, and he manages to snag quite a few of these wins. We'll take a look at the full finishing order here. And I'll tell you what, Gary, that was quite the show that Adriano just put on, breaking away off the front after that first lap crash with Franzoni. Not his doing, but Pinero took advantage, and he just never looked back, breaking multiple seconds open at a time, as much as 9 or 10 seconds, finishing close to 5 seconds ahead of Jorge Varela, another former winner for Mass Devils Racing. Just quite a show of the best on iRacing in IndyCars.
Yeah, he made it look easy. I don't know. You got to ask him if he even shed a piece of or a single bead of sweat in that entire race. He made it look so easy. Olsen is the one that I bet you is probably the one that has the damp shirt right now, because he worked his tail off. He went up. I think he's up 13, 14 spots. And then considering how hard it is to pass here, that's really good. He should be very happy at that performance, considering this just track is just very hard, and you can't do much outside of 10 laps, first 10 laps on the tire.
Indeed, and of course we had that lap 1 incident involving Franzoni. Franzoni was on the pole. Unfortunate for him. We'll see it here. We'll just take a look at the replay. This set everything in motion for the rest of the day. As you can see, well, I spoke errantly. It does appear from that camera, perhaps Pablo Diaz-Francis drifting up the track and collecting the Corinthians Bread King teammate of Adriano. And, well, I'm sure they'll have words after this one.
Well, we'll look to see. That's I mean, I don't want to cause drama or anything, but I think that's 2 weeks in a row where there's been contact with Pablo on another car that's put another car out of the race. When you start seeing the same person doing that same over and over, whether it's we're all human, it's accidents, I know, but I'm going to be giving Pablo a lot more extra room when he's around me, just knowing that the last 2 races, there's been contact involving his car. And I'd be lying if I said these other drivers don't think the same thing. I know they're thinking the same thing, because we all talk. And, it's always like, hey, you got to watch this guy, you got to watch this guy, you got to watch this guy. And 2 weeks in a row, same guy hitting somebody, whether it's, accidental or whatever, that gets remembered.
It does, in fact, get remembered, and we'll see if we can get Pablo in the booth. He may be busy having words with others, and that's it. It's forever, for all time. It's here on video, and and also there is the protesting system that does work within iRacing, and I don't know if these types of things are protestable, etc., but It's part of doing open racing. It's part of doing official racing. You can't control if you're on the pole just because you're fast. Doesn't mean that somebody else won't have a problem in a corner and come up and take you out. Could be a lap car, could be somebody from second or third place. Just one of those things. And unfortunately, I think one of the cool thing is, though, that you can always come back and get another chance. And so there's always 4 races a week that you can do before it starts hurting your points. So you just come back again next week or next race that you can and try and get those points again. So we'll take a look and see who's in the booth that maybe we can get in here. I'm not seeing anybody. Oh, I am seeing the Jesper Orman letting us know internet decided to stop working.
That's awful.
Exactly. Goes right there with what your buddy Oscar Fredrickson was saying in the chat room. Give it a month, I'm sure we'll have snow here in Sweden. Indeed. Starting to feel like that here in the Seattle, Washington area as well. Yeah, we'll see if we can get Hugo Olsen in here because he did finish 4th, and it was another exciting day.
Plus 14 spots.
Huh. There we go. Hey, Hugo Olsen. Can you hear me? You got a copy?
Yeah, hello.
Hey, Hugo. You gave it another amazing run coming from the back of the pack, and you almost made it to a podium position. 14 spots gained. You went further than anybody on that long green flag stint. What was your day like, and what happened to get you qualified so low to start this one?
Yeah, like, first of all, looked like some other guys put in more qualifying work for this race. My practice was basically turning 5 laps with the race setup, but I'm not really sure what happened. Like, I have no clue. Maybe it was that I left the car like running on idle a bit before heading out on the track, but like it was only like 30 seconds or so, so I don't think it affected it, but I'm not really sure. I went flat out and I hit the lines right. Not really a mistake. 2 pretty close, but slow laps.
Well, just goes to show even the great Hugo Olsen's going to have to go back and try and figure out how those other guys managed. That's always my story, Hugo. Whenever I do any of these fixed races, I try to hit all the marks. I practice my qualifying and everything, and everyone else is still like a couple of tenths faster than me. Not used to seeing it from you, though, but in the race itself, you came from practically dead last and gained 14 spots. What was your strategy? What was your thinking there going through the race? When did you decide you were going to try to overcut everybody? And did that strategy, do you feel, did that work to your satisfaction?
Yeah, like that's kind of been what I do now in all the races. Try to stay out as long as possible and do the overcut. And the main thing with that is to protect against the yellow, being able to run in clean air, and also having some difference to the other cars at the end of the race, because light fuel, basically like empty tank almost, and fresh tires, you're gonna be super quick. Right. And the other cars that maybe divided the race more equally will not be as quick, and that way it's more easy to make the move stick. And I didn't think I would lose too many positions from staying out. I think I lost maybe 2 places, 3. Yeah, I think it was 2 places. So yeah, I was basically just trying to get those back and try to attack Pablo. I think I had something for him, but with like 3 to go, I got a very big slide into turn 1 and just barely hang on to it. So that ruined my chances of losing a second that lap and basically destroying the right rear tire.
Oh, I see. We were trying to figure that out, but at the same time, you did come up on the back of Pablo Diaz-Francis. You were real close. This, as Gary was mentioning, this was shades of what you did at Nashville, able to come from practically 20 seconds down or 15 seconds down, something like that, come back to just 1 second behind the leader. Thought you might be cooking another one up like that today, but as you said, just great to get back into fourth. I don't know what this is going to do for your points hunt. Last time when we left the air last Thursday, you were in the lead of the points, but you hadn't done a race yet today, so we'll have to check in next week and see where this all finished up in the points. But this was the highest strength of field, so thanks for coming out on Thursday. We'll look forward to continuing the championship next week at Chicagoland. Pretty much a draft walk type of race. What kind of strategy do you even come up with to try to break a draft walk race like that next week?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not sure that I can make that one, but if I can do it, I'll be there. But I thought it would race similar to this track, but maybe it will be more packy, like you said. So in that case, I guess it's mostly just the race is decided in pit cycle, so you have to like either make the overcut or undercut work to cycle to the front and try to break your way that way.
Well, it'll be another interesting race next week, especially if it can go this long on a green flag stint. This was fun to see, even though in real life there probably would have been a caution for that first lap incident. No cautions, really getting a chance to see some strategy and some long run pace play out. Hugo Olsen able to just keep going around the track when everybody else was giving up on their tires. But what will we see next week? Maybe Hugo Olsen up there back on the podium. Thanks for joining us again, Hugo. It was great having you here on Championship Thursday.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the broadcast.
Absolutely, my pleasure. We'll oh, and you know what? We do get a chance to hear Hugo say a little bit in Swedish, if he wouldn't mind, to his Swedish fans.
Ja, det var ett kul race det här, och om någon svensk ser det här så prova på IndyCar-bilen.
And what was that you said?
I said basically that if some Swede watches this, they can try out the IndyCar on iRacing.
Indeed. We would love to have them. There's a link down in the description. You can come out here, just get a little bit of practice in before you go out there on the track and try to take on the likes of Hugo Olsen, because he'll show you his rear view or his rear tires very, very quickly. Hugo, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your Swedish. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Top Swedish driver in the championship at the moment, Hugo Olsen, joining us here, Championship Thursday, VirtualRacing.Network. Gary, it was an awesome race. I don't think we got anybody else to chat with this afternoon. Maybe eventually we'll get Pinero in here and you can talk to us in whatever language he'd like, as well as Varela. And Pablo, unfortunately, said he couldn't make it.
He couldn't make it, yeah.
Yeah, he had to run. But, wow, we got a lot of people in here watching the race. That's great. And, Gary, it was just a lot of fun today. Pinero snagging another one.
Yeah, I want to do some real quick, before we go, real quick analysis on what Hugo was saying. He didn't qualify bad. I mean, he qualified bad compared to the other people that are in this split. But and unfortunately, because the qualifying and the grid and the race happened so quick, it doesn't give us a chance to really go through and talk about how close and how razor thin qualifying was. Pablo Diaz, Francione was only 0.006 faster than Pinero for P1. Dallara was only 0.008 slower than the pole compared to Francione. Pablo Diaz, 0.011 slower. Christensen, 0.016 slower. So you see what I'm saying? That
yep.
It was all under a tenth of a second between P1 and P14. So these guys probably are putting in fast laps like, wow, that felt fast. And then they look at the time, that's awesome. And then when you're racing against all these other really good caliber drivers, it's coming down to hundreds and thousands. That's what separates it. Hugo was only 0.144 off the full speed. Any other race, maybe? Any other time, maybe? Top 5, top 2, maybe sitting on the front row, whatever. But because it's Charlotte and the nature of how this track runs and you're wide open the whole time, very tough. So it's the razor thinness of qualifying really set the stage of how this race was going to kind of unfold, with the exception of Hugo storming from the rear.
I think that's excellent analysis, and I did get the qualifying results back up there on the screen because, as you said, we didn't really spend much time. We just kind of looked at the order that everyone was in. But there on your screen, you can see 0.15 of a second. That's 1.5 tenths of a second. It's faster than you can't even really think that fast. And that's the difference between first and 18th in this top split race. You can't blink. I mean, it's like a blink, and that's the difference between first and 18th. So even a master like Hugo Olsen, who he puts in the lap and he's like, I hit my marks, I was on the correct lines and everything, and he looks around after qualifying's over and he's starting from so far back he can't even see the pace car. It just lets you know not only the quality of racing that's going on in IndyCar and on iRacing and what this is like at the top split level and the level of competition, but in particular lets you know these drivers who've shown up to this race in particular, and you see them show up throughout the week in other races and in other leagues, etc. But when they come together like this, it's a really special thing. So you're seeing the cream of the crop battle it out. So we had a number of great people drop by in the chat room. I even saw Nick DeGroot manage to stop in. Bato Gonzalez. Alfredo Morales wants to know how he can run in the championship. I think we just told you, but go down to the link in the description and click on that link, and it'll send you right over to iRacing.com. And basically, you just got to have a high enough I rating to be able to qualify. And it's a good thing that a lot of drivers don't have to have qualifying to get into this top split, because again, it's so tight that maybe some of these guys wouldn't even make it possibly towards the back. But nevertheless, I mean, that would be sad for Hugo if he didn't even qualify for top split because he was 1.5 tenths off. But nevertheless, Gary, it was a ton of fun from my side. I heard in your voice you had a lot of great fun, and well, Charlotte does live on, at least virtually, for IndyCars. Next week it's Chicagoland, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll get to see tons more great strategy play out.
We might see a little bit more pack racing next week. It's actually going to be a day race. So typically day races, it's packy for a while, and then it starts to, as the tires go off, starts to string out. So we'll see how they do in a little bit of pack racing scenario. Obviously, there'll be probably pack racing when they get to Auto Club the next week as well. So maybe you get a little pack racing training in on week 5 before doing the bigger track on week 6. But Chicagoland Speedway has promoted or has had a very high number of very close IndyCar historical finishes there, very close finishes there. And I think it still holds the closest finish in IndyCar history between Sam Hornish and Alan Jr. So Chicagoland should prove to be a pretty exciting race. In real life, unfortunately, it looks like that racetrack might be destined for the bulldozer, but and that's a shame. But at least it's still here on the service, and when the IndyCars run there, it's typically a pretty good show. So catch us next week at Chicagoland. I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised about the action you see.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday here on VirtualRacing.Network live on YouTube. As always, make sure you subscribe and like this video. You'll get lots more notifications on all of our future upcoming events, including Sunday's U.S. IndyCar League. Starts bright and early out here in the United States on the West Coast, 7 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. And, of course, Monday night over on Raceverse, you'll get to see the first race of the week, probably with Gary Godso calling the action. It'll be this same iRacing NTT IndyCar Series FIXED. Don't miss it over on Raceverse. Should be some exciting action. So, Gary, looking forward to it next week, Chicagoland. And I thank all of you for joining us and making VirtualRacing.Network a great success, especially the competitors and all of you over on YouTube. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week from Chicagoland. On behalf of Gary, all the competitors, and myself, Trevor Greenfield, it's been an absolute pleasure calling this one. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night.